So the Action Galactosemia Kids clinical trial was the first clinical trial ever in children with galactosemia. So that on its own, I think, is a huge breakthrough. It was the first time that children with galactosemia were tracked over time for things like galactitol and galactose levels, and also on standardized tests with clinical outcome metrics. So the test was really, the trial was the first of its kind. We studied 47 children aged 2 to 17, so a very broad range of age groups of children with galactosemia. We did make sure that the children enrolled in the study were balanced by age. So children 2 to 6 were grouped together, 7 to 12, and 13 to 17. And we studied the effect of treatment with our drug, Govorestat, versus placebo in a 2-to-1 randomization fashion. So twice as many patients got Govorestat versus the placebo treatment in the study. And with 47 children in the trial, it ended up to be 16 on placebo and 31 on active treatment. We're very pleased with the study results. I think that it's been a huge knowledge base and development and advancement forward for galactosemia as a disease state. And I think we have very good clinical efficacy of our drug, Govorestat, in treating galactosemia. So why don't we walk through some of the points? Why are we so excited? Why do we think this? So we looked at a variety of different metrics in the clinical trial. We looked at activities of daily living, behavioral symptoms, cognition, fine motor skills, speech, and tremor. And the primary endpoint of the study was a composite endpoint that looked at speech, activities of daily living, and behavior. And then we also looked at secondary endpoints that included things like adaptive behavior, which is a very specific type of behavior, and tremor. And Govorestat had a very consistent clinical benefit across all of the outcomes that we studied, except speech. So Govorestat treatment really substantially affected activities of daily living. People are probably familiar with what that is. It's what it sounds like. It's, can your child, brush their teeth, take a shower, feed themselves, activities of daily living. Also, there was a substantial effect on behavioral symptoms and a substantial effect on cognition. We had a statistically significant treatment effect on behavior and tremor. So we really, I think, had a significant impact of the drug in the clinical trial. The one aspect that the drug did not show a treatment effect on, but we believe we know why this is the case, was speech. So, as mentioned earlier, one thing that parents can do for children with galactosemia is intensive speech therapy. And the children in the study were imbalanced at baseline in that there were more patients in the placebo group receiving speech therapy versus the active treatment group. And also more children started speech therapy during the trial, such that by the time we finished, almost all of the kids were on intensive speech therapy. So we do think that that's an aberration of the clinical trial and of children implementing speech therapy during the course of the trial. And that when you look at children who actually had a severe impairment on speech, there still is a beneficial effect of Govorestat treatment. So we did not hit on our primary endpoint because of that speech issue. When you remove speech from the primary endpoint, it's highly statistically significant with a p-value of 0.02. And we also had a very substantial effect on several of the endpoints individually with very tight p-values as well. So we think overall the clinical benefit of the drug is very substantial. It's in the context of also being very safe and well tolerated. So there were no serious adverse events in the study. And all adverse events that were seen were very typical of a pediatric population, things like cold, viruses, upper respiratory infections, GI side effects, and they were completely balanced between placebo and active groups. So there were no adverse events that were increased in the treatment group. So we believe this is a very safe and well-tolerated drug with a substantial effect on meaningful clinical efficacy endpoints. And our hope is that this drug will get approved and will be available to patients with galactosemia.